Hey guys, welcome to the Property Panel Podcast. This week you just got myself, Jalen Hardcastle here. Josh Story's getting prepared for his wedding. Then you got Ethan McCormick getting moved into his home. So we got a lot of things in the works, but we didn't want you guys to miss out on any of the action. So we're still going to be bringing you the latest and greatest. Just bear with me. I've never done the show by myself before, so there might be some mistakes, some awkward silences, but I still wanted to bring you this very important topic, which is contract negotiations. But before we dive into that, let me give you a thanks to our title sponsors. So we're obviously going to start off with Collier Title. They do deed prep, title work, and closings, and much more. They're located in Brandenburg, Louisville, and Elizabethtown, and you can reach them at 270-763-6589. And then for this week's ad, we want to give a thanks to We Buy Houses, which is actually me and Josh. You can give us a call at 270-422-1331. And we buy houses in any shape, any condition, any situation. It doesn't matter if your payoff's low or high. We can get you what you need to get. We even work with the mortgage companies, if we have to do short sale situations. So definitely give us a call, and we appreciate you guys tuning in. And if you or anyone you know would like to be a weekly, monthly, or yearly ad sponsor, it's $100 weekly, $300 yearly, and $300 monthly, and $3,000 yearly. And you're advertised on our intros, outros, as well as intermissions, as well as all social media platforms. And as you've seen in episodes past, I think we're on 5 or 6 different platforms at the moment. So we're cumulatively reaching about 2,000 to 3,000 views a week. So that number keeps on rising. It's a big thanks to you guys for, liking, sharing, subscribing. All that goes a long way for literally nothing out of your pocket. So, why not go ahead and help us? Go ahead and hit that like, share, subscribe button, and we'd be greatly appreciative of that. But like I said, so obviously we got Josh's wedding this week. It's coming up on Saturday. So if you want to go ahead and get some from the registry, that'd be greatly appreciated. I'm pretty certain it's one love, two stories, .us. But go ahead, go back to a later video. You'll see for sure what Josh says about that. And go ahead and get them something nice, even if it's something small or even nothing at all. You're not obligated, but it is appreciated. So then obviously, like we said, we have Ethan's house next week. He's getting fully moved in today and this weekend. So we should be able to have him on next week showing you his transformation of his house and what it's like to be a first-time home buyer and a first-time flipper and doing a thing from start to finish, basically on your own. Obviously, he had tremendous help from his father-in-law, Mike, which is a great guy, and everyone pitched in their hands, and, he's very happy with the outcome. So I'm happy to see him in his new house, and we look forward to hearing from him as well. And we wanted to kind of, our plan was Josh was going to come on the show, but he's been super backed up this week. So we were going to go over some crazy real estate stories. But before we dive in next week, I think we'll have Josh talk to you about a little bit that he's been dealing with here lately, which, we talk about a lot of the good, but we don't really talk about a lot of the bad, and there are certain situations where properties don't get sold. And I think you'll want to tune in next week to hear about that one specifically. But yeah, I guess today we can go ahead and get into contract negotiations. So we talk a lot about offers, and last week we actually went over the offers and different terminology that people use in day-to-day real estate that, the common person might not know. So we wanted to break those down, give you kind of a little information about each topic and then what goes into a contract. And I figured what better way to kick off last week's episode than going over how to negotiate a contract. So obviously a real estate contract is 7 pages, at least the one on H. Clar & Glar that we use. And it's going to be going over your offer price, your earnest money, what loan type you're going, the lending institution, if you have your actual approval or just a pre-qualification. It goes over the closing costs that the buyer might be requesting, as well as a timeline for closing, as well as timeline for inspections that they have to have in a certain amount of time, as well as a response timeline to those repair requests. And then you move on a little bit further, you'll go over home warranties, you'll negotiate keys at closing, whether it's post or, pre-possession. There's so many ways a real estate transaction can go. So it is important to know the ins and outs of these contracts, and it's important to use a professional because I think there's no greater way to, protect your investment and yourself than to use a professional. I mean, I'm not going to go wire up my house because I'm not an electrician. I don't expect someone else to come sell one for you. So give us a call. We'd be happy to go everything for you. And once those contracts are signed, it is legally binding. So this isn't just some paper, we're giving our kids or whatever, and they're just writing on it with crayons. This is serious documents, and it is a legally binding contract. So if stuff does go south, we're not attorneys. We're going to recommend that you seek one if need be. But if you use a good real estate professional, you shouldn't have to get to those terms. So like I said, use one you trust. Obviously, me, Josh, and Ethan, we're great candidates, and anyone else at Cedar Hill. So give us a call. We'd be happy to help you out any way we can. But like I said, we use the HCAR GLARS, GLAR contract, HCAR being the Heart of Kentucky Association of Realtors, GLAR being the Greater Louisville Association of Realtors. And then we also have Sierra that Jennifer's a part of, our broker, and that's the Southern Indiana Realtor Association. So we have 3 different MLS boards that we're actually a part of in our office, which is not very common. Which isn't very common in our area, even though we are so close to Indiana and it's just a short leap over across the bridge. But that's something that we're trying to do to stand out from the competition, and I think it's helped tremendously. We've done quite a few deals up in Indiana, and there's beautiful properties over there, and we're only 10-15 minutes away. There's some parts of Meade County that are actually further than Indiana is, so why not open our boundaries and see what else we could get as far as revenue goes in real estate. So that's been nice, and if you want to shout us out for anything in Indiana, we'd be happy to help you there as well. But basically, so like I said, we're going to be going over contract negotiations, and I want to start from page 1 to page 7 front to back, kind of like we did with the terminology last week on last week's episode. But basically, I'm going to go over everything that we'll have to deal with in a contract and something that you need to look out for as sellers and buyers alike. And then towards the end of it, after we describe everything, I'll give you a few different insights to a few negotiations I've done, as well as some things you can do to potentially protect yourself on some of those negotiations as well. So obviously, like I said, we're going to start off at page 1. You're going to be going off of, obviously, it's going to be your realtor's information, the property address, deed book page number, how many acres, whatnot. But then it's going to have a small line right before the offer amount of appliances that stay. 9 times out of 10, you're going to get the kitchen appliances, but it is a plus sometimes whenever the seller is going to offer a washer and dryer in that price too. So, and even if you see one in the home and it's not listed on the MLS, I'd go ahead and put it in there, and who knows, they might be willing to give it if your offer is acceptable. So obviously you want to look at those appliances, and I've even had some instances in some cases where they just put dishwasher, fridge, whatever, and it's not the specific dishwasher or appliances that were in the house at the time of showing. So even if you want to protect yourself even more, I would go as far as writing down those exact serial numbers if that's a make or break it for you when purchasing that home. But there is a little insight for us investors that we like to go do, a little trick to the trade. Lowe's, I think it's just Lowe's, maybe Home Depot as well. But you go up there a couple times a week, maybe even a month, and you have to get there right as soon as it opens. But they have a scratch and dent section, so basically I got my fridges, like a $2,000 fridge, and we ended up getting it for $5,000 or $500. So it was a heck of a price change, and the only thing it was a small little dent in the corner that we just covered with a magnet. So it didn't concern us too much, and it saved our pocketbook. So that's what I recommend to my clients too if they're in need of appliances, as they're moving in. But also, as far as appliances go, right under that, you're going to have security systems, gas, water softener, etc. If you have any of those things on the property that you want to stay, or maybe the buyer wants to have, that's where you would put that in as well. And then right below that's going to be your offer amount. And in today's market, it is a hot market, so a lot of times we're seeing at listing price, if not over listing price, if it is priced accordingly to market value. So I know a lot of people want to list a little bit over market value or what our market analysis says, and I try to deter them because most of your interest and your serious buyers are going to come within the first week or two. And some of them might get deterred over $10,000, $20,000. I know it might not sound much, and you're like, hey, we're going to shoot for the stars, but I think it does you more harm than good if you don't actually list at that market value. And that's also something, whenever buyers come to look at something, see how many days that property's been on the market, and that can kind of give you an insight to how motivated the sellers might be. And then after that, obviously, you got your earnest money deposit. So a lot of times I think we do 1% of the offer amount. So typically, say it's a $100,000 home, we're going to do $1,000 of earnest money. So that's across the board common. Obviously, the more you put down, it shows how serious you are in the transaction. So I do think a heftier earnest money deposit is beneficial to the buyer. But as far as a seller goes, I want to say most sellers think that, they're putting down a high earnest money deposit. They're definitely going to follow through with this. No, if they have a good agent, they're probably going to be able to get their earnest money deposit back 9 times out of 10, and in most cases. And a lot of times if sellers are like, don't I get that back? I'm like, we can fight it. It's going to cost you more money in the long term, and it's going to hold your house off the market more. So I don't think it's ever a big deal to fight over the earnest money deposit, because at the end of the day, you don't want to deal with those people that are going to be, a stick in the mud and giving you the runaround. So earnest money deposits, it's not even a required law to have one, but it does show your good faith, and it is recommended. It just shows your offer is a little more valid. And then obviously right below that, you're going to have loan types. So it'll have FHA, VA, conventional, cash. And then under that, it's going to break down your monthly payments, your down payments, your interest rate, how many years it's amortized over, and stuff like that. So obviously, you're going to look at that. And then you're going to look at the lending institution. Obviously, now we have a bunch of internet lenders, so we're getting a lot of internet approvals. And as nice as that is to have it at the fingertips anymore, it also becomes a struggle later down the road whenever we are trying to get these deals closed out. So we still do have our lenders that we recommend, and I recommend lenders I've been doing business with for 8+ years, so I'm not going to send you someone I don't think can do the job, and if they don't, it's not their fault. They're trying as hard as they can, and a lot of them are going to pull the strings and do a manual underwriting, which is even tougher on them, but they want to see you get in the house just as much as you do. So don't get it strayed, and don't start shopping around, because it's going to be pretty same across the board. And if one lender says they're going to do something, another's not, chances are those fees are going to add up eventually. I just had a deal like that go down, a week or two or a month or two ago, and the buyers were still upset about it. But at the end of the day, I represented the seller, and there's nothing that I can do. But obviously, like I said, cash is king. The lending institution, it matters. Obviously, shout out Chad Gooden. He's one of the best in our area. Just had a different little change in business, and he's excelling right along. Still been shooting me out those approvals, so I appreciate him. Definitely go give him a shout. And then I want to jump into kind of a little brief description. Obviously, you're going to look at the lending institution, their loan type, but the most important thing, I think, is the pre-approval. And a lot of people might get this confused with the pre-qualification. And the pre-qual is basically the information you submitted, and they send you out an approval based on what you said. But that actual approval is when they go in and verify everything, get your pay stubs, your 1099s or your W-2s, and they actually date back and verify everything that you've given them. So that approval is way more important to have than the pre-qualification. And a lot of times I won't even recommend them look at an offer if it's just a pre-qual, or if it's the only offer we have, we're going to counter back that, we're not going to accept this offer until we get a full initial approval in hand. So, and then obviously still on that first page, there's a lot that goes on that first page, but it would be your down payment type. So obviously in today's market where things are going over market value, your appraisals can come in below contract price. But I think with that, most people need to do, if they are offering over amount, at least sellers need to look at it from the standpoint, is make sure that they have enough down payment to cover what they're actually offering. Because I know some agents will just kind of wave a blind eye at writing some of these offers and be like, oh, hopefully it prays out. If not, it's from my buyer's, benefit. And it's really not that way. You put everyone at risk in the transaction, and you could potentially work for nothing and get so far along just for it to fall apart. So make sure if they are going over market value that you have a hefty down payment in place. That way it assures you that if there is a difference in appraised value, that they can come up with the difference and then not put anyone out. But obviously there is other ways to negotiate that, as far as you can take some money off the price. There's tons of things, especially as we go down. I'll talk a little bit more about it. But obviously, then you want to see if they have appraisals. Most loan types are going to require some form of appraisal, especially your secondary market. Local banks might just do an evaluation, which is not as strenuous, and that's why those local banks are more appealing, and also because they can close a little quicker. And then they usually don't offer PMI if you don't want it, so the monthly payments are going to be a little lower as well. And then obviously we got the contingencies. So you can have a whole mess of contingencies. Obviously the most common one would be contingent on the sale of their home. And then obviously you got repair or inspection contingencies, appraisal contingencies. There's so many contingencies you can put in the air, but what I recommend for sellers especially is doing the first 48-hour right of refusal, which allows you to still market that property as active while still, pursuing this current contract, and then hopefully they can release their contingencies fairly soon, and you can move on with the contract there. But in the case that it doesn't work out, what I would recommend, some people will not do the inspections until the contingency is released. And then I just actually had a deal where they did that event against my discretion. And, 2 months into the contract, or a month and a half, After the contingency's released, they do the home inspection, they back out regardless. We could have saved a month and a half of trouble, money, time off market, what have you, if we would have just done the inspections up front, which in that case, we were offering a credit, so it should have been covered, but you can't make everyone happy. We cut our losses, knew it was going to be kind of a headache to deal with these people, so we moved on, and we're looking for a new contract at this time. And then obviously possession, it's negotiable. You could have pre-possession, post-possession, or simultaneous keys at closing, which is most preferred. There's no really benefit to a seller given pre-possession or post-possession, in my opinion. I think the best thing for both parties is just do simultaneous closing so nothing else can go wrong. After you sign and the keys are given, the deal is done, and you can go on your merry way. And then another thing to look at would be the inspection time frame. So typically what I'll do is about 7-day timeline to get inspections done, and then a 3-day timeline for repair request negotiation. And I know it depends on the contract that you use. Our HCAR contracts only give us 7, then 3, whereas the GLAR contracts will give us 7, then 3, and then 3 days each time a response is given. So it's a personal preference, whatever you like. I personally like the HCAR contracts a little more, but we have 3 different contracts we can use, so we'll do whatever suits our clients the best. And then obviously you got home inspections, inspectors. You can actually deny up to 2 home inspectors. Most people don't know, and a home inspection is very important, but it will kill the deal in some cases. So you definitely want to get a reliable home inspector, and you want someone that you have good connections with, and that are not going to make the report seem as scary as they may seem, especially for these buyers. They see one thing wrong, and they're like, oh my goodness, this house is about to fall apart. But that's really the opposite of what's happening. You're just getting this inspection to protect yourself and your investment for future maintenance and stuff like that, obviously. So, and then obviously some inspections, VA, FHA, are going to require termite, of course. Sometimes they're going to require a radon, a septic, a well, or even a structural engineer inspection. So that is something to think about when accepting offers. If you have 2 or 3 different offers and they're the same price and different loan types, look into their loan types and their lending institutions and see what would work best for you and your client. And then basically whenever you do get that repair request list, obviously it's worst case scenario, we don't want one, but everything can be renegotiated at that time. So obviously you can accept the repair request list, or you can take money off of the purchase price, or you can do money in lieu of repairs. So you can do a credit at closing if you'd like. There's many ways around it, but when a repair request comes up, there should be some way that we can figure it out. I mean, like I said, you can't make everyone happy, and not everyone's going to agree. But I'm confident that, if you have the right agents around you, that have the right connections, we should be able to get it done for you. And then obviously you want to look into title companies. Title companies are big. They're going to be handling your closing and your money. And they're going to be a pretty important part of the transaction apart from your realtors and your lenders. The title companies are pretty much the next step. And you want a good, reputable title company that is going to do the proper title work in place. They're going to make sure the deeds are prepared and the money is transferred as it should be. And you also want a title company that's going to be responsive if there are errors and omissions, the last few days. I know when you get CDs out, you can have a bunch of money floating around that you have to get balanced, and it's going to be wrong 2 or 3 times before they finally send out the right one. So you want a title company and a realtor that are going to work together to get to the bottom of it, make sure all funds are correctly dispersed. And then another thing, so an escalation clause, that's very important whenever a buyer's drafting an offer, and even for a seller to look at one. So say we got a property listed at $250. We want to start out at $240. We don't want to go max if we don't have to, but we're going to put in an escalation clause up to $260. So we're technically offering $240 up to $260, and then what I'll typically do is just my buyer's willing to go $1,000 over the next highest offer. So say someone offered $255, we're going to put in an offer at $266. But say someone came in at $260, we're not going $261. You can accept our offer or leave it on the table. And that's something good to use, but it does get confusing. I've actually lost offers using an escalation clause, although in most cases I would say that it is beneficial. But some of the newer agents, I think, struggle interpreting that information. So that's why we got a good broker, a good team in-house here. And if we do have questions, we're going to get to the bottom of them and get them answered. So, and then response time is big. So a lot of people want to give 24 plus hours for response time. I do not. I want to give 12 hours max, unless I'm having conversations with these agents and these homeowners, and they're going to let me know what a reasonable response time is if they're busy. But, As far as I can tell, there should be no longer than 12 hours to response time. And that also creates a little sense of urgency as well as seriousness. If you have 24 hours to play with, a lot can change in one day. You can get more offers or what have you. So, you can accept my good offer, or you can hopefully wait on a better one. So I like to create that sense of urgency, and I've seen in most cases that it's worked out in our favor. And then for multiple offers. So obviously, if you get in a multiple offer situation, like I said, I want you to list at market value, because I think that that's going to get you more return on your investment than raising it a little bit, sitting on it just to come back to the price that I thought originally. And then, if we have to deal with some contract falling through, God forbid, we got time in that timeline. So I think if you have multiple offer situation, go ahead and do a highest and best. And I would give yourself 24 hours, 48 at the max of highest and best, and then review your offers and take the best one for your clients. And ultimately, nobody gets paid until we're at the closing table and everyone's signed. So the job is never done, and we're not going to give up halfway through this transaction. We're going to carry it out, and we're going to do our job from the beginning to the end. And I hope you see that through. So obviously, if you want to negotiate any contracts yourself, just give us a call. We'd be happy to help you. We give free CMAs, so we'll come take a look at your home, give you a market analysis. And I think something that we do that's beneficial is a lot of people are very interested in quick closings, and we have the means to do that and the resources to do that. So what I like to do, most other agencies will just offer a CMA price. Yeah, that's awesome. That's what I'm going to do, but I'm also going to give you a cash price. So I'm going to let you know what an investor would offer for this property, and then I'm going to let you know what I could list it at. A lot of times there's a difference in 10 to 20,000 as far as profit, but we can get that property moved in 2 weeks rather than 2 months or what have you. So definitely give us a shout. Like I said, it's very appreciative. But I think we're about to tune off. I want to give a thanks to Josh and Ethan. I wish them the best this weekend, getting prepared for Ethan's move into his new home, and Josh getting prepared to welcome a new bride into his life. I'm pretty excited to share that experience with them. Wish we could have them on, but we will see them again next week. So before I tune off, I'm going to give you thanks to our title sponsors, and then we'll see you next week. Yes, I'd like to thank Collier Title Company. They're located in Brandenburg, E-Town, and Louisville. You can reach them at 270-763-6589, and they do deed prep, title work, closings, and much more. And then our weekly ad is obviously me and Josh today. We buy houses, any shape, any condition, any situation. Just give us a call. Cash, we can close quick. Thank you guys for tuning in, and hope to see y'all next week.